our comrade Ivan Ivanovich Privalov. In 1961, you were selected for the Shukovgrad Interaeronaut Exploration Program СССР. Despite failing your basic physical and being caught cheating on your entrance exams, on the morning of the 12th of April 1962, you boarded a rocket drill containing the experimental device Little Orpheus, with the purpose of descending through the Earth's crust to discover the relative hollowness of the interior and its suitability for colonization.
No, you've lost me, General. Did I do what?
You and Little Orpheus were dropped into an extinct volcano to drill to the center of the Earth and find out if we could establish a city there. Note, if you will, that this date is over 3 years ago. Ivan Ivanovich, can you describe Little Orpheus to me?
Of course. It was large and round and had something of a disagreeable smell.
I was referring to its technical specification.
Well, General, I am no man of science, but it had this radio thing that I was supposed to use to let the surface know I had arrived, and some sort of battery wrapped in this lead box. But I was told to not touch anything under any circumstances, and I did notice the engineers who worked on it were quite a shifty bunch.
An atomic bomb, Comrade Privalov. An atomic bomb that you have lost somewhere below the Earth's crust.
Ah, yes, that bomb. Of course, General. I can explain everything. But it is a long and somewhat complicated story. And let me assure you, this is not a case of milking chickens. Good, General. It's more than good. It's extraordinary. And it began like this. An extraordinary sight. I realized this must be the fabled land of Plutonia, as documented by the brilliant scholar Obruchev. A trail of destruction carved by the rocket drill led down into the wild and mysterious jungle. The rocket drill itself must have snapped in half somewhere below Kamchatka, and Little Orpheus bounced out and became lost in that prehistoric forest.
Dogs. What sort of dogs?
I beg your pardon, General?
Large dogs or small dogs? Big like an ovcharka or small like a barlomka?
Does it really matter?
Of course. Indeed.
Another part of the rocket drill. But still no sign of Little Orpheus. Was a plan to outwit the monster. Imagine my shock and surprise to find in that clearing the last part of the rocket drill. more shocking was the fact it had been ransacked. Someone had made off with the tools, the weapons, the rations, and the spare parts for the Pragviev. I began to suspect foul play. Perhaps little Orpheus was not lost at all, but stolen. All I could do was follow the trail further into Plutonia.
Please, do tell me, what was this brilliant plan?
I ran like hell, General. What luck! What a miracle! One moment I was rushing into the fetid tonsils of that horrible monster. The next, I was plummeting downwards to the jungle floor beyond its reach. I prayed I would land on something soft.
Perhaps your head.
But nothing could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. An epic saga of pride, power, and revolution. A struggle for freedom the likes of which our world has never seen. And it happened like this. Those strange, gentle monsters who towered above me. I could only guess they were the lost tribe of the Menf, an earlier race of people. But why were they so fearful of those ancient gates that lay just beyond their village? And why did they seem to recognize me? Why?
Yes, I'm also wondering why.
Ну а как же, генерал? Who was I to question such things? Trapped as I was deep underground. I was more curious, I must admit, about the location of little Orpheus.
Orpheus! Orpheus!
Utterly destroyed?
Utterly, General, a tragic loss.
A convenient loss.
I imagine archaeologists weeping as I tell you. But...
I am curious, Ivan Ivanovich.
Sucking the power from this wondrous city as he drained the very lifeblood of the ancient civilization and drew it into the atomic embrace of little Orpheus. With a song in my heart, I raced onwards to stop him. drained of its power, the magical heart of the city cracked, and it sent shockwaves through the world around me. A true monster general, willing to bring down the mountain itself upon Agartha and bury it forever in his ruthless scheme. I could not save that wondrous place, General, to my shame and regret. But I resolved myself to avenge the Mien, to recapture little Orpheus, and to bring that tyrant to justice. Plummeted down through that weird sky towards a great turbulent ocean that roared and swelled, a ferocious sea that offered no hope of survival. I thought of home and wept, unaware that in an instant my fortunes would be changed by an event so bizarre I almost hesitate to tell you. And it happened like this.
And I assume you are now going to tell me how you managed to escape from the belly of this giant whale.
Naturally, General. And I must say, it really was a fascinating... It was an extraordinary place, General. I could perhaps deliver a lecture on the subject to Moscow University's Zoological Society, if you like. I only want to help now that I might one day see again.
I think we're all longing for home at this point.
Oh, with warm slippers, a mug of steaming Sbitzin, and a roaring fire. Not far from home, trapped inside a monstrous fish. My mother often called me her malinki marskoi kotik.
A giant worm for a giant whale, huh?
At the risk of repeating myself, it was huge, General.
Your ideological commitment is admirable, comrade, but...
I concluded that if I could find the root of the infestation and neutralize it, the whale could mount a spirited counterattack against the worms.
Where?
is little Orpheus? Where is my bomb? Unless you are trying to tell me the whale swallowed that as well.
No, it did not, General. That would be absurd.
No, Ivan Ivanovich, you are absurd. Your story is absurd. This whole ridiculous fairy tale is absurd.
Flew from the whale's blowhole like a supersonic jet. And below me, the ocean became a sheltered bay studded with right shapes. You will be amazed as my epic journey unfolds. For here, it was about to take a most unexpected turn. And it happened like this. It was a beautiful but deadly wasteland. Freezing cold, brutally chilling, enough to kill a man in hours.
Yet here you are.
Indeed, General. An impoverished childhood playing in the streets of Omsk during the... I could not believe it. A hairy elephant, trapped and frozen in the ice.
A mammoth.
No, General, a hairy elephant. Who would think such a thing could be?
A dead explorer stole my bomb.
Not dead, General, but quite insane. Perhaps it was the loss of the arm or the leg, or the long years in isolation. But Toll was clearly mad.
You should have got along perfectly then.
How I wish we had. But no, General. Whatever Toll's intention with little Orpheus was, I had no time to consider it. I was in mortal peril once more. I could not recognize. To be honest with you, it didn't seem appropriate to stop and ask them. On we flew, across the deserted, frozen plateau. I was single-minded in my pursuit, dogged in my determination. I would take back little Orpheus and prevent Toll from detonating the bomb.
Ah, you are as humble as ever, Tavarish.
I thought I was doomed. But a miraculous thing happened, General. I could breathe. It must have been the helmet that was jammed onto my head. It was a strange and remarkable thing.
Some might almost say beyond belief.
A narrow-minded fool may indeed, General. But of course, you are no durak. But even as I sank towards the floor of that lost ocean, my journey was about to take me to darker, stranger territory than ever before. And it...
Perhaps is a better way of describing my current state of mind. A sobering discovery. Are you suggesting that the vessel simply wandered off course and sank here? That seems unlikely even by your standards.
No, General, I only wish that were true. So might you almost be perplexed, perhaps?
Don't push your luck. I was referring to the fear that something is lurking in the darkness. Something strange, brutish, and ill-intentioned.
I was being hunted. There was no doubt about it. And escape was all I could think about.
Naturally.
That and duty.
Duty?
Yes, General. After all, I had a bomb to recover from that villain Toll.
Submarines. You didn't mention submarines before.
Somehow, miraculously, I was alive. Some twist of fate, some hand of destiny, but I was alive. Relentlessly. The heat was unbearable. I was exhausted. Yet I could not stop. I had to go on. For 7 weeks, I trudged across the desert. Villainous thief. The city was fallen to ruin. It was like a vast musical instrument, vandalized, and yet still attempting. He knew the city. He knew the crystals could amplify vibrations and waves, and was using them to boost the signal of the radio parts to exert his control over the nymph. Which meant... The vast pictograms told of a history of wonders. They seemed to suggest the Lemurians were travelers from another world, where a mysterious clock seemed to stand. A roaring symphony, a crescendo of peals that set the city dancing, each note causing the crystals to shimmer and cascade with light. But the sandstorm was no natural phenomenon, and the bells did not ring for celebration. Something was very wrong here. What was once a rocket drill ship, built to burrow into the earth, was now a mighty vessel, repurposed to blast off into the skies. There was no doubt the toll was headed for the strange world with its clock. Although to what end, I was yet to understand. But there was no time to consider. No time for questions. Paul was on the rocket. Little Orpheus was on the rocket. And wherever they were headed, I must head there too, to thwart his plans, recover my drill, and save the world! Laika!
Are you stark raving mad?
It was Laika! I am sure of it! That spirited little dog saved me!
Laika saved you in her little space machine.
I believe the correct term is capsule, General.
Don't push your luck any further, Ivan Ivanovich. I fear it might snap.
Oh, my apologies, General. In my excitement to explain what I discovered on the far side of the Metagalacticus Interiores, I got carried away. And it happened like this. Entirely deliberately, I'm sure of that. she continues to be a heroine and a savior and protector of our great nation. There in the distance it stood, enveloped in a mighty time storm. The world clock, General. The beating heart of all history. The axis mundi, the pillar of the world.
Not enough to conquer Russia by drilling back to the surface with his magical mind-controlling atomic radio set then.
No, General. You see, what if he could fuse little Orpheus directly with the world clock? Then his message would radiate with every tick and every tock. He would not simply be the Tsar. He would be the Tsar of all time, the eternal tyrant, the literal incarnation of everything our glorious revolution stood to overthrow.
Sonikiv!
Uncanny, General. But it was somehow different. I felt no cold. The waves were motionless. Indeed, it was as if I had stepped free of those rivers of time and stood on entirely motionless ground. And there in the distance,
What?
debris from Tsarya and tall slave mines had washed up. Explosive eruptions of fire and heat. Thunderous emissions and lethal gases.
Much like your cousin Pavel, perhaps, as a result of consuming all of those stolen eggs.
Ah, General, you have been listening after all. But it was little Orpheus that enabled him. And the time itself, the world clock itself, was determined to make matters right.
With a little help from you, of course.
Merely a simple pawn in a game played upon a cosmic scale, General. But a pawn?
I would strongly suggest you cut to the chase.
The chase, yes. The pursuit of tall and little Orpheus. I stood there with the resin fragment in one hand and the blasting cap in the other, and then, just like that... It was the last time I was to see those poor enslaved Mink on my journey. As they scurried in agitation around the base of the rocket drill, now a dreadful weapon of war in the hands of a madman, I was reminded of my mother.
Your mother looked like a nymph? That is extremely disrespectful, comrade.
That would be ridiculous, General.
I would hate to undermine your otherwise entirely plausible account.
You forget, General. The belly of the beast was full of shipwrecks. And on one of them, I was bound to find what I was looking for. Fuse wire.
Comrade, yes, you'd forgotten all about the fuse until I reminded you, hadn't you? I am a patient man, Tavarish. I lost 3 toes in the winter outside Sharkovskaya in 42. A drunken dentist removed 2 frostbitten toes and 1 perfectly healthy one. You may therefore consider me a man blessed with an uncommon level of endurance for discomfort.
I hate...
Cat, got your tongue?
If I may, General, perhaps just a minute or two to gather my thoughts?
There are precious few minutes left. We have reached our conclusion, I think.
And it was fortunate indeed that my uncle...
Vanya, the pig dentist?
No, my other uncle, Sasha, had taken me mountaineering in the Urals during my childhood, for it was only by scaling these giant mechanical parts that I would reach.
You've done very well. I applaud you for your efforts and your story. It is a wonderful tale, Comrade Privalov.
It was...
Ivan Ivanovich?
It was... It was... No... I'm sorry, General. I grasped the hammer-shaped thingamabob.
Let's just agree it was a hammer, Ivan.
Yes, of course. Let's do that. I recovered my senses, shook my head, and looked about me. In my distracted stupor, I had climbed further up the tower than I ever thought possible. In front of me was the clock face, and I gazed out through it at the sheer expanse of history. And I knew whatever happened next... happened next?
The hand of destiny had fallen upon your shoulder.
Yes! It had. And what an extraordinary hand it was.
And so, Tol was defeated. Little Orpheus destroyed, the bomb lost forever.
Not just that, General. In that moment, time sprang back to its proper shape, and I found myself once more in Plutonia, as the start of my journey. But the wound in the interior sky was gone. The drill was gone. It was as if I had never been here. And they were nymph, free and happy, without the tyranny of toll, free to pursue their simple lives.
But we can never go back?
Never, General. One drill, one metal sphere, one lone cosmonaut was nearly enough to destroy time and unleash the tyrant toll upon our world. Who would think an innocuous beeping radio housed in a ball of metal could change the world so dramatically?
Who indeed? But tell me, what of you? And what of your return to the surface?
I stayed amongst the Myenk for as long as I could. But I came to realize they had begun to worship me as a king. No, General. I am a good socialist and could not allow this workers' paradise to become corrupted. And so I left that wonderful land for the last time.
And then?
And then I walked. For 2 years I wandered, always looking for a way home, through lands and worlds almost beyond imagination. Until one day, I emerged, blinking into sunlight, and realized I was home.
Until one day I emerged, just like that? You just found your way back to the surface?
Well, General, it was a little more complicated than that. There were great obstacles to overcome, and terrible challenges to face, and incredible lands to explore.
Enough, Ivan. Little Orpheus is lost forever. The interior is sealed. You have returned with a story of socialism, triumphing over incredible odds. It is, as I said, enough for one night. Enough for my report, at least.
General, if I may...
Comrade Ivan Ivanovich Privalov, you are found guilty of all charges brought against you and sentenced to execution by firing squad. However, having listened to your story, I believe you are quite mad. In other words, I find your madness guilty, not you. And we cannot execute madness. And indeed, there are lessons to be learned, even in the depths of this madness. Perhaps the Americans were right to send the chimp after all.
So, General?
Get out of my sight, Ivan. Go home. Enjoy a state pension as a madman. Just make sure I never see you again.
Yes, General. Of course, General. Anything you say. I shall be small and quiet and live a life without excitement and...
Out! Until one day I just emerged. Oh, very good, Tavarish. Very good indeed.